What's up, y'all, and welcome into the Jack Vita Show. I'm your host, Jack Vita, as always. And if you guys like what you hear today, we are going to, we got a lot of big content coming out. College football preview, NFL preview dropping next week. We have another special guest stopping in on the podcast today, as well as later, either next week or the week after. A lot of content. So make sure you guys subscribe to the Jack Vita Show, wherever it is that you get your podcast. Follow along on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. Vote for the greatest sports movie of all time. We got a bracket going, and I don't want to waste any more time because we got a very special guest joining us right now, as many can see. He's a guy who played in the NBA in his rookie year, 2017 to 2018 for the Phoenix Suns, who just played in the NBA Finals. He's since been playing in Europe. We went to Valparaiso University together. I covered him for 2 years. In my 2 years at Valpo, I covered the Valpo men's basketball team, where he set a lot of records, including all-time in terms of points, rebounds, field goals, free throws, maybe some other records that I don't even know about. Alec Peters, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
It's great to be here, Jack. Like I was telling you before we kind of started here, I've listened in a few times. Love some of the content that you've been putting out there, and I was really happy when you asked me to come on and talk a few things, talk about sports and life in general. What's been going on with me?
So I was trying to think about this. When was the last time you remember talking to me? Because it had been, we hadn't talked since graduation. So that was at least 4 years.
Yeah, so I think probably the most memorable moment that I think we had together was on the train going to
Yeah.
Chicago. It was me, Nick Davidson, Jacob Schoon. We were going to a Cubs game, and I remember you were taking the train, I think, home
Yeah.
for the weekend, whatever it may be. And we spent that entire train ride just getting to know each other better because other than that, we had briefly in passing at sports games, at Valpo games, wherever we were, we would strike up conversation. It was mainly about the given sport game we were at. But no, that was like probably the most memorable time you and I spent together was that train ride. We played cards, I think, and we just kind of chopped it up and talked about whatever.
Yeah, we talked Cubs, and I remember you were a lot more optimistic about the Cubs that year than I was. I remember I was like, I don't know about this Jason Hayward signing, the Lackey signing. I'm not sure. And you're like, I mean, this team's really good, Jack. I think they're going to win it this year. So I got to give you props. They did it.
That was probably, other than some of the Valpo moments I had, one of the most memorable college experiences for me was watching that World Series Game 7 in my Uptown East apartment with Nick Davidson. I remember turning my coffee table over after Bryant made that play to Rizzo to get that last out. And I think you could hear there was a couple places on campus everybody erupted, just because it so unexpected, not unexpected, but like it had happened. Everybody had sensed they were great, and for it to just happen like that, it was a moment I'll always remember.
It was such a fun time. And because they did that, I don't feel all that bad about what's happening right now. The Cubs, by the way, were on a 12-game losing streak. They snapped that earlier this week, taking 2 of 3 from the Reds. But this is not the Cubs team that we knew for the last 5-6 years. This is right now, they're essentially tanking to try to get as high up the draft board as they can. What are your thoughts on just this, how everything transpired over the last few weeks, Alec? Were you surprised that things ended as abruptly as they did?
A few things on it made me kind of made me angry a little bit, and a couple of things you understood. I think you understood that they were going to disassemble the car, so to speak, and put it in parts and sell it off and start over. But I kind of I was hoping that maybe Rizzo or Bryant, they would get that last game, that last at bat, that last standing O at Wrigley, and it just never happened. And that kind of made me upset. Like those guys were part of the greatest team in Cubs history. The 2016 World Series champs. Like those guys deserve to leave the team and leave the city with a little bit more of a going out party, and to see them kind of sit that last game and kind of wait to see what was going to happen. That made me a little upset. I wish that things could have ended, and more of a riding off in the sunset type of thing. But I think we all saw it. You win the World Series, and you think you can just ride that the next couple of years. You're going to be competitive, and yes, they made the playoffs, but I think you saw the steam let out of the engine, and they just weren't the same guys. Do you think, are they super talented? Absolutely. Baez, as talented as he is, he still makes a ton of errors. Contreras is, flashy and as good of a catcher as he is, does have a big bat? Like, yes, he does, but does he hit it all the time? No. You saw the talent, but not the production in the coming years. And so it makes sense what Jed Hoyer's doing in the rebuild type of thing. I wish it would have hopefully rode out for a couple more years, because we just, as Cubs fans, you went through this, not just 10 years ago we were going through this, and now we're gonna have to go through it again. And in my perfect world and wishful thinking as a Cubs fan, I'm hoping they go get somebody or go try and get a couple players, because it's not a small budget team. You have the money to go get some new players and maybe some better veterans to hopefully be competitive in the next year or two.
Isn't there still time for those guys to get a final at bat at Wrigley? I mean, I feel like Anthony Rizzo is going to come back to the Cubs in 4 years, and he's going to play he's going to come full circle, and he's going to be Grandpa Riz. He's going to be the David Ross to the next Cubs team.
Yeah, in a perfect world, I think, yes. I think you would expect that or hope for that. I just, the recency of it, you hoped, and you wished, instead of just seeing the tribute videos online, you wish you would have seen that final, standing O, where you see the player get emotional at home plate, or you see them run out and play third base or first base for the last time, and just getting that crowd noise, and then seeing that. The sports fans live for that. They live for seeing that rawness and that emotion from those players.
Did you ever experience anything like that in terms of that emotion playing in front of the fans? Have you experienced that professionally or Valpo? Was there one singular experience that felt like that, or many?
Oh man, in terms of raw emotion, I mean, senior night at Valpo was super. Like, I don't want to say it was emotional, but it was like I knew and I don't know if you remember or not. Like, I had a broken foot, and like I kind of knew after that game that like it wasn't great. Like, I could barely walk. I was limping. Like, I knew something was like majorly wrong with me, and I think that was probably the most like hard hitting game I'd played in. We won. It was senior night. And not only was it, my last home game at Valpo, but like, it might have been it was probably my last game of the season. And, as a team that was aspiring to be an NCAA tournament team, a sleeper team, an upset team, to not be there for that, and realizing like, okay, like, this is it. Like, this is my college career wrapped up right now because of, this injury that I have. Like, that was a memorable moment for me. But as a professional, I won a EuroLeague championship my second year as a pro, first year in Europe, which, for people that don't know how to compare it to, it's like the NBA of Europe. It's like the best teams over here, second best league in the world. We won a championship in my first year doing it, and I didn't know what to feel, what to expect. But as you start celebrating more, you see how happy everybody else is. You're like, oh, like nothing gets better than that. Like, being the team that's the best, being part of the best, being one of the best. You can't put those emotions in words.
Well, I remember you said, I'm not sure if you remember, of course I remember how things shook out our senior year, because I was only at Valpo for 2 years, and I was able to be on that basketball beat and cover the team and have a front row seat. And as you mentioned, like before that bus trip, or the train ride, I mean, everything we had ever talked to each other had been very professional. It was like, oh, I'm just covering the team, I'm here to ask you questions or whatever. But I remember that because I was so excited to travel. I was like, oh, I might get to go to the NCAA tournament this year. I might get to. So I had the same, maybe not the same exact heartbreak that you did, but I had a similar heartbreak when we lost in Detroit and had to go home after one day at Motor City Madness. I mean, that just absolutely sucked.
Just a terrible ending to the season, terrible ending to, the guys that had been there for 4 years, 3 years. We had such a great group that built something so special, and something that, you thought would be, like I said with the Cubs, a sunset ending, riding off and being a part of that. And it just, for it to shake out the way it did, it still eats at me today. But, that's life. That's a ton of things in life. I'm sure, just like anybody else, you have things that'll eat at you, and then you just got to move on and shake it off and continue to live.
So Valparaiso, our alma mater, was in the news last week because they changed their name. They are no longer the Crusaders. They're the Beacons. Valparaiso Beacons. Now, we did a couple months ago, we did a podcast episode where we pitched a bunch of name ideas. I did it with Andrew Stem, Parker Gatewood. Beacons was not on our list, Alec. What's your thought of this new Valpo team name? What do you think?
Interesting. But I think of it like this. Like, I just got married, right? Like, my last name with my wife's first name doesn't sound great, but the more you say it, the more you get used to it, the more other people say it, the more she introduces herself. Like, it's just gonna come together and be what it is. So I think, over time, people say it enough, people wear the shirts, it just becomes a normal thing. And then all of a sudden, like, they'll be talking about, yeah, we used to be the Crusaders, and it's just going to be one of those things. But no, like me and you, like, we're Crusader alumni, man. Like, I don't consider it anything else. I still have all my stuff that says Crusader on. I'm not going to throw it away or not wear it. Like, it's just that'd be silly.
I think the name Beacon and what it means is a great example of like what you want people from the university to be. But is it the best team name? I don't think so. I think there were a number of other directions they could have gone. In fact, I went to a baseball game with a bunch of the Valpo basketball team now, and I was asking around, what do you guys think of some of these names? And a lot of them were saying, you know what, if you're going to change the name, just make it Valparaiso Gold. Just basically, let's keep Valpo as our brand. We'll make it We Are Valpo. That's our brand. But like, why do we have to have some kind of a new? And then the other thing with it, if you make it the gold, you can choose whatever mascot you want. You could make any kind of fun mascot. I think mascot is a good marketing chip to get attention to the school. But if you're going to name it something else, it doesn't sound like people are super excited about it.
No, I get that feeling, the same feeling that you get. I think everybody's kind of in that blah kind of, could have done better, just that kind of mode. And, listen, it's a hard decision. People in charge of making those decisions, everybody in hindsight always says they could do better, they could pick something better, but you have to give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. And I think, but I think if you would have listened to the fan base, if you would have polled the fan base, I think you would have gone a different direction, in my opinion.
So when we were on that train ride, I also remember you guys were talking a bunch about, it was very candid. I got to hear a lot about the team that I hadn't heard before. And I remember you guys were kind of talking about, and at this time you had declared for the draft. It was after your junior season had just ended. So you went through some of that workout stuff like that, but that was the first year, I believe, that you could put your name into the draft and then pull out before the draft and retain your eligibility to keep playing college basketball. But there were a lot of rumors about you potentially transferring at that time. So I remember talking to people on campus, talking to Jeffrey Schorsch, who was one of your good friends at Valpo from the tennis team. And I remember asking Jeffrey, I'm like, what's going to happen with Alec? And he's like, honestly, I have no idea. Like, I really don't know. A lot of people were concerned you were going to leave. But when we were on that train ride, there were a couple times I remember you talking about next year we're going to have this great team. It seemed to me like that was your plan all along. If things didn't work out with the NBA draft, to come back. Did you ever entertain the idea of transferring?
Yes, to answer your question, yes, I did entertain it, but I didn't entertain it enough to where it became a like hard, line, do I transfer or not? I think I would have been stupid not to not play the field, but you know what I mean? Like, see what's out there, like do the research, do the background, the due diligence, I guess, on what my life, or try to predict what it could have been like that next year. But did I ever get to the far enough point to where it was like no turning back, like I need to leave? No. Yeah, it came down to, could I have went and played at a bigger school? Of course. But would I have had the same basketball career as a whole? I don't think so. And to spend it with my best friends and people that were in my wedding, a week or so ago, and to be able to have that last year, even though it did shake out not the way we wanted to. It still is one of the best years of my life, being able to spend it with those guys and the teammates. And we all wish we could have done things differently, but it was, and I don't think anybody really knew. Even I really didn't, know until the last week when the decision needed to be made on whether to pull my name out, whether to transfer, whether to re-enroll in school, whatever it may be. But no, I never went to La Barbara and asked for, a release. I never got that far into the process of it. I just, remember taking in the information that was being given to me, through different mediums that would, circle back to me with the different schools and stuff that were trying to come in contact. But ultimately, yeah, I couldn't have saw myself wearing a different jersey that last year.
What schools reached out?
I guess we are kind of far removed from it now, so I guess we couldn't talk about it. But no, I mean, this is not to showboat or anything, but you got Duke, Michigan State, you got Kentucky. I mean, you just pull a name out of a hat, and that's what everybody was in my circle that was being contacted by them was telling me about it, and they were getting excited for me, and everybody's thinking that it's going to happen and that's the route it's going. And I'm not a big school kid. That's kind of what it came down to. I'm a small town kid. I'm from small town in Illinois. I went to a small school in Valpo. I make things work because I go to these not so known places, and I help build something, and I become part of something that's bigger than what it is. And that was kind of how I've had my success. So why change that?
Yeah, and you were, I think, an honorable All-American that year, 2016, and then you were again in 17. So I have to think everyone wanted you at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. It got to that point where it was like, all right, do I keep entertaining this information, or do I just say, all right, we're not doing this anymore. This is, I don't care if they're promising Final Fours, championships, all conference, draft pick status, whatever it may be. I'm just not, this is not me. This is not what I'm about. This is not, I'm a loyal guy. I'm a loyal guy by nature, and my loyalty was to those guys and those teammates that I had and the coaches and that school.
So if you were to join Coach Loddick and Coach Gore tomorrow on the recruiting trail, what would your recruiting pitch be to guys who are considering Valparaiso?
That's tough, Jack. See, I get asked this question all the time, do I want to be a coach someday? And that's, obviously I couldn't imagine my life without basketball. So I'll start by saying, if I were to coach someday, I think college coaching would be the worst thing I'm at, because I am the worst person at calling somebody, recruiting, and telling how great they are. I would for some reason I would struggle with that. I'd always try to find a way to think of something that you're not, that some hole in your game. And so for me, I'd be honest with them. I'd tell them look, this is not the sexiest place you're going to come and visit. You're not going to have all the amenities you wish you could have. You're not going to have air conditioning in your dorm your freshman year. You're going to have some things that are not, not going to be too appealing to you, but you're going to be in a place that has a chance to win, and you're going to be a part of something that, if you do make it, if you do come and you do play well, that is going to give you a bigger status than if you were to go somewhere that was built to win. If you go to some place that's small like Valpo and you make it a winner, you make it a beast, you make it a powerhouse at its level, and you show up well against those Power 5 schools, that holds more weight than someone that's going to go to Loyola. Loyola is expected to have success. You go to Loyola and don't have success, that's going to, put you in headlights. But if you go to a Valpo and you have success, that's going to give you more of a boost. That's going to show people that you're really, you're the real deal, that you're that kind of guy.
So you were drafted with the 54th overall pick in the second round of the 2017 NBA draft. Was your time in the NBA so far, because you could still go back to the NBA, you got a lot of years ahead of you, 20 games with the Suns, 2017 to 2018, 35 G League games. So you bounced back and forth between G League and the NBA. Was the NBA experience all it was cracked up to be? Was it more than that? What'd you think?
For me, no. My year in the NBA, to be quite honest, sucked. We were the worst team in the league. We won 20 games all year. We went the entire month of January. We didn't win one game. And it was almost miserable for me because not only are you part of the worst team in the league, you're a young guy on the worst team in the league. So, those think of those younger players I had, Josh Jackson. He's in Detroit now. Like, he's a great player, but he was top 5 draft pick that year. And I think he's playing for a minimum deal in Detroit. Davon Reed was a 2nd-round pick in the same draft as me. Like, he's fighting out in the G League right now. Like, when as talented as you may be, as good of a basketball player you may be, when you get put in that hole of like, all right, he was a young guy on the worst team in the league, your prospects moving forward are not, unless it's with that team, unless that team gives you another chance again, you're going to have bad luck, in the upcoming free agency in terms of trying to find a new job, a new place that's going to give you more than what were already experiencing. And then, that's when the door opened up to go play for, the best team in Europe. And, would I have traveled there in my life had it not been for basketball? Absolutely not. Like, I'm a homebody, I'm an American boy. I think I could find everything I want in America and then be just happy the rest of my life. But now these past 3 going on 4 years now of doing it has just opened me up to a whole new world of people, of experiences, anything. And it's been a true blessing for me. And now I get to share it with my wife as well. And, we couldn't ask for anything better.
So as an American, I'm ignorant to a lot of EuroLeague stuff and what goes on outside of America, obviously. So how does this process work? Do you have to pitch yourself to the European League teams, or it sounded like they were knocking on your door to call you up, bring you over there?
No, I mean, it's advancing. They're taking a step up over here in terms of their technology and their ability to scout and their within the clubs, within the teams. They do a really good job of researching college players. The coaches I've played for knew everything about me when I was in college, and some of them knew where I went to high school. It just they do their research. It's just like if you were to take teams in America, college, NBA, everything, and stick it in Europe. Like that's what it is. You have your lower tier teams, then you have your top tier first division Euro League, top level teams. And, those teams obviously have the most money. They have the bigger budgets. They can, get the better players. They have the better amenities and all that. It's just, it's its own competition. And it's one of the most intense, fun experiences. Every game is like Duke, North Carolina on steroids, man. Every fan, they live and die by it. You've seen videos of the soccer crowds and, from Premier League clubs and Champions League type stuffs in soccer. Like that's exactly what it is for the basketball teams as well. And it's like your heart's pounding out of your chest every time you take the floor, and it's an experience unlike anything else.
Now, there's been a lot of chatter this past summer, just a lot of criticism of NBA refs and people saying that, hey, maybe these international refs, the officiating's better over there. Some people think maybe there's a little less star treatment. Is there any truth to that, or does it appear to be the same?
The game's different. It just is. The international game in the NBA, I mean, you saw with the Olympics, I think what the Olympics proved is that the talent gap between what's in the NBA and what's in Europe is starting to close, and it's starting to close really fast. And the Olympics, I think, proved that. Team USA, the USA is always going to have the more premier athletes, the better players, the better talent. But I think you're starting to see a lot of European players, a lot of countries in Europe are doing their best to close that gap, and they're starting to adapt a lot of new teachings and a lot of new things that are helping develop their players. But going back to kind of what you were saying, what you were asking me about, the refereeing, and I think that the game is just it's refed differently. I think in Europe you're allowed to be super physical in some areas, but then in some areas you're absolutely like you're dinged on the first touch. And I think in the NBA you're starting to see like refs cater towards the offense so much, and it is an incredibly hard job to be a referee. I will say that. It is incredibly difficult to try and see things in real time with fast players, with quick motion, with star players in their ear, because, referees aware. Referees aren't, I've met and talked to plenty of referees in my time as a basketball player. They're plenty aware who the best player is. They can't foul them out the game. There's certain awareness amongst the referees that they have to call a game a certain way. But I think within that, they do the best job they can to make it fair for everybody. But ultimately, circling back to what you were saying, there are some players that they're aware of that they need to either keep in the game or give a little bit more leash and all that.
So we have to talk about your one shining moment in the NBA. Last NBA game you play, 36 points, 9 rebounds, 8 3-pointers. Do you know who there was only one other player that season who put up 35 points, 9 rebounds, 8 threes? Do you know who that player was?
Of course I do, because not everybody was telling me about it afterwards. It's James Harden that year, and yeah, you know, I when people bring that up, it's like, I used to be somebody, I guess. No, I mean that was a great moment. That was the moment for me that gave me the like, okay, you belong here. Like you can do this. Like you can play at the highest level against the best players, and you can get that feeling that like baskets wide as the ocean type of feeling. Like you can get that and you can be that, and you can definitely contribute at this level. Now, when you're going to get the next chance to do that depends on how your career shakes out. And you prefaced it earlier, like I'm still young in terms of my playing career, and hopefully that door will open up again when the time is right. I don't see myself doing it just to do it. I'd have to be the right opportunity, right place, right time, and be worth it to me to make that jump. And we'll see what happens. But yeah, that game, everybody loves to bring it up, talk to me about it, and tell me all the statistics behind it. And each time they do, it just seems like it was farther and farther away. Like it was so long ago.
Hey, God's timing is perfect, man. You may get it. You might get back over to the States sooner or later.
Hey, that's always be the goal. It's home, man. You can't beat being at home. Europe's great. Like I said, the intensity, the atmosphere here is unbelievable. But you never be able to beat playing at home in front of your family, in front of your friends more consistently, instead of having to worry about having them travel across the ocean for a few weeks to see you.
Now, Alec, a few things here from the world of sports, and then I know you got to get to bed. So, a little run through of some baseball news. Here's what we got this weekend. Padres have lost 7 of 8, and they're losing games to bad teams. They lost to the Marlins, Rockies, Diamondbacks. Phillies were on a 7-game win streak. They were in first place in the NL East just about 10 days ago, and now they lose 7 of 9. Something's got to give this weekend. Padres and Phillies, big series. People should keep an eye on. The Reds are just 1 game back now of the Padres in the wild card spot. Padres again. Yu Darvish on the DL. A lot going on with that team. Cardinals only 3.5 games back, and then the Phillies are starting to fall out of it. In the NL East, again, they were just in first place a second ago. Braves have won 6 straight. They sweep the Marlins and Nationals. They now have a 4-game lead in the NL East. The Mets are below 500 now at 60 and 61. Owner Steve Cohen is tweeting about his team. He's not very happy. I don't love that from an owner.
You don't love it? So let me get your thoughts on that. You don't love the whole owner speaking out on social media?
No. Would you want that if your owner was doing that? You're playing on a team?
I think it's entertaining as a fan,
Well, yeah.
but playing on a team, probably not. I would be ready to walk in his office and give him one between the eyes. But no, I'd be interested to see what you think. What you think from your perspective. As someone in the media, is that kind of a, like, I don't know, kid in the candy store? You have an owner tweet something out like that, you just take it and run with it, or what is it? What is that feeling for someone in the media?
I think that's 100% correct about people in the media, where it's like, oh, this is perfect. Baseball's a long season. This is something that can cross over into more of a mainstream sports story rather than just baseball. It's the New York Mets. They're a team that's been dysfunctional for what seems like more than a decade. It's been a dysfunctional organization for a long time. It feels like to me, meet the new Mets, same as the old Mets.
I don't know. I'm going to be interested to see if he is, or if someone's had a talk with him and said, hey, like, you probably shouldn't do it again, or if he's going to continue to just throw it out there and put the players on blast. That'll be interesting to see how that, because like you said, baseball is a long season. To have something juicy like that pop up, I'm sure it gave everybody a little rejolt and rejuvenated them as we get through like the middle part here before the playoffs.
Hey, man, it must be a New York thing. There was a president not too long ago from New York who was putting out similar tweets. New Yorkers, man, they don't have a filter.
Nope, and they never will. They never will. They think they're the greatest, and
So on the AL side of things, the Yankees are playing some of the best baseball they've had all year. They've won 7 straight, sweep the Red Sox this week. Now they have the top wild card spot. Oakland's a game back of them. They're 2.5 games back of the Astros in the AL West. Red Sox half a game out of the wild card spot. Seattle Mariners 3 games back. Toronto 4.5 games back. Really exciting time. Yankees, Braves playing some great baseball. Exciting stretch of baseball. Unfortunately, on the downside of things, Chris Bassett, the A's, arguably their best pitcher this year, he was hit by a line drive right back at him, hit him right in the face, fractured
terrible.
his cheekbone, upper jaw, but it sounds like he's going to be okay. So that's your baseball news for the week, Alec.
You ran through that pretty smooth, man. You stay on top of it. That's I think that Phillies and Padres here. I think people throughout the baseball season are like, oh, a lot of season left, a lot of season left, a lot of season left, and they still think that. Now you're getting into 130 games now, 120, 130 games. Like not a lot of baseball left. These teams have to start to pull ahead in some way, shape, or form, or they need to stay in the race. Or you can't see these teams fall out 4 or 5 games because that's becoming a bigger hill to climb. 2 months ago or a month ago, 10 games back wasn't sell out your season. Like this is time to mail it in. Like this is getting to the time where if you're 5-6 games back going with 15 games, I mean it's a tough hill to climb.
Yeah, this is the nitty gritty right here. It should make for some great entertainment. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the Jack Vita Show for more baseball content. All right, in the words of Tony Kornheiser, Alec, I'm going to get you out of here on this. How many wins for the Chicago Bears this season?
How many games does Andy Dalton start?
That's a great
Man,
question, by the way. I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking 8, maybe 8 or 9.
I'm gonna say 7 wins.
7 wins. 7 and
7
10.
wins. I think everyone wants to talk about the QB situation, but they do have some good pieces. I think that can still keep them, showing up on Sundays, giving them competitive games. Hopefully, playing in Chicago this year will mean something, and that they'll, protect the home field. It's just the QB situation is on everybody's mind. So I'll be interested to see how many games Andy Dalton starts, depending on how they're doing. I'm sure if they have success early on, like he's going to be their guy. Just I think everybody's still just miffed as to how that all shook out. You sign a guy and then you draft a guy. It just which direction you want to go with. I don't know. I don't know what Coach Nagy's got in his mind, but I think it might be a make or break decision for him.
So you sound like a start Justin Fields week 1 kind of guy.
I'm a make your decision and have everybody like if you wait to the last minute to make the decision, you're going to piss Andy Dalton off. You're going to piss off. Sorry for the language.
You can say piss.
You're gonna tick off. You're gonna make mad everybody that was working with Andy in the first team. Like if you're waiting to make this decision, that's when people get angry. If you make the decision clear cut, this is what we're doing. This is the direction we're taking with our team early on. Everybody can fizzle out and get ready for the season on their own time.
Tell me what you think of this. And I'm a Steelers fan, so I don't have much skin in the game. But I look at this and I say, and again, we'll be getting more of this in our NFL preview coming out this next week. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the Jack Vita Show and log on to my site, jackvita.com. Tell me what you think of this, Alec. The Bears window is not 2021. It's 2022 and beyond. Aaron Rodgers does not have much time left in Green Bay. The Vikings have proven themselves to be an average team, really, over the last 3 years. It seems like something's got to give in this Kirk Cousins, not Don Zimmer, Mike Zimmer. Mike Zimmer, Kirk Cousins. I don't know if they're the best combo there. Lions are in a full-scale rebuild. Let's say Rodgers leaves Green Bay next year. I like the Bears a lot for next season. I think the goal should be get Justin Fields as ready and as best as you can for week 1 of 2022. If that means not playing him until later in the season, because like you said, this is like 7 and 10 win team, like an average team, really. So the Bears could be I think right now there's a lot of expectations, a lot of high expectations. Get off to a cold start could be a good thing for the Bears because you lower the expectations. You get Fields in there, give him some reps. Next year, you lose the Foles contract, the Dalton contract. You got a lot of money to spend, put some talent around that rookie QB contract guy. I think next year you're looking at a really good Bears team if they do this well.
No, I like how you put that. It's a great point. That's living past this year, which I know is hard for some fans and hard for Coach Nagy and probably people in the front office of the Bears to look at. But no, it's a great way to put it. I mean, I think it would be a tough year as a Bears fan if you did see that struggle and you did see hey, we have this, pretty talented guys on our roster. You still got Mac. You still, have a defense that has the potential to be one of the best in not only the division but in the league. But isn't it amazing that one guy in the division just changes the landscape of it all? Like you're literally waiting. You're like, all right, once Aaron Rodgers is out of Green Bay, like that's the Bears' chance. It's like having a guy like that. That's a true MVP caliber, once in a lifetime type of quarterback is having somebody that if he's in your division, it's like, all right, like we're building for the future. So I think that that's a great perspective to have on it though with the Bears.
Thanks, man. Well, it was really great catching up with you over the last half hour or so. Take good care of yourself. Is there anything else that you wanted to add while you're here? Anything else you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to?
No, I just want to say thank you, Jack, man. I know you're doing a lot of great stuff. You're pushing out content left and right. And, I'm always going to be a fan of somebody, that I was, even if it was just an hour and a half train ride, like someone that was able to
Hey,
be normal. To be normal with me, for an hour and a half, which didn't happen too much when I was in school. But no, I appreciate you. I appreciate you having me on, and I hope that everybody in this show, continues to gain listeners and followers, and that it blows up someday, and that you're one of those voices that needs to be heard when it comes to anything sports.
Really appreciate that. That's very kind of you. I must add, we did share another moment at Valpo. There was a time.
Which one is that?
It was a lot shorter, but there was a time that we were both out at one of the bars. I think it was Pepe's. It was like a Tuesday. And I remember you walked into Pepe's. It was Tuesday night. It was the Pepe's night that everyone would go, right?
I think so. Yeah.
You walked in and neither you or I were big party guys. Like I don't drink at all still. I don't drink.
Yeah.
And I know you weren't a big party guy. And so you showed up and I remember watching the whole bar just move over and like kind of follow you around. It was like Michael Jordan walked into this tiny little bar. And then people started to clear out and I walked past you and you were like, "Hey Jack, how you been?" And then we caught up. We were hanging out with maybe Jabril and Rachel Gerhardt. It was pretty brief. But I remember we were talking about the Celebrity Apprentice and The Bachelor and just reality TV shows, stuff like that.
You're a big reality TV guy. I do know that. Know that. I know you're way into that. I can't say the same for myself, but I did watch that season that my buddy Colton Underwood was on. We don't need to touch on that, but it was great to be able to share those moments with you back then and to share another moment with you now. I really appreciate the Jack Vita show for allowing me to come on here with the 7-hour time difference and do it all the way. Technology is an amazing thing. Can do it all the way from a different country.
Oh, absolutely. So, Alec, how can people follow you on social media? You want to toss out Instagram, Twitter, anything like that?
You guys don't have to follow me on social media. I'm not the biggest social media guy anyway. I use it for information only. Twitter's my favorite thing because that's the quickest source of information out there on anything. So, they can, if they want to, they can look up the name and do it. But I don't think you're going to be following anything interesting if you guys decide to. So I'll leave it up to the listeners and the followers of the Jack Vita show if they want to tune into some boring social media posts by me.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming, Alec. This was a great time.
Thanks, Jack.
All right. That does it for my conversation today with Alec Peters. Again, former member of the Phoenix Suns who played in the NBA Finals this year. He was teammates with Devin Booker. I'll have to ask him about that next time he's here. Had a great time talking with him. Make sure you guys, again, if you like this episode, subscribe on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Go to my website, jackvita.com, and get on the newsletter whenever I write something. You will be notified. You can also subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. My social media handles are at Jack Vita Show. It's a great time talking with Alec, great time catching up. First time I had talked with him in over 4 years. So, again, thanks to Alec. Great having him here. We will be back next week for our college football preview and our NFL preview. And then we also have another special mystery guest coming up on this show. When I have a date confirmed for said mystery guest, I will release that information on social media so you don't miss out and you can submit questions for that guest. But it's someone pretty big time. I don't want to reveal who it is quite yet until we have a date down, but I'm excited. So I'm going to be taping the college football and NFL previews over the next few days, depending on how long those are. Those could be multiple episodes. It could be one episode. If it ends up being 3 hours of content, I'll split it up into multiple episodes so you don't have a 3-hour pod on your hands. Okay, subscribe to the show. And until our next episode, I'm Jack Vita. Bring in the dancing lobsters.